and welcome back to Harvard Media. Tonight we're watching 5 terrifying Ouija board experiences gone wrong. So it's by top 5. The link to the channel is in the description. People are watching it.
To some, the Ouija board is nothing more than a children's game that can be purchased with ease. But to others, they are a gateway to the other side, which can often have devastating consequences, such as causing paranormal activity in a home, to even causing the user to commit crimes, including murder. This has strengthened people's beliefs that, real or not, Ouija boards are best left alone. Now, before I begin, you should know that there are many stories where people say they have contacted their loved ones and had peaceful, enlightening conversations with them through a spirit board, and I will be talking about those in another video. These 5, however, are when the board shows its darker side. Here is a mix of scary encounters, crimes, and even some interesting footage taken during the Ouija board sessions. Sit back, hit those lights, and enjoy. Michael McCallum. This Ouija board story, unfortunately, does not just end with a bad memory, but a life and a sentence to the UK's most infamous mental hospital. It all started in December 1996 when 15-year-old Stefan Karan and Michael Eridge met with 20-year-old Michael McCallum and his friend. They all knew each other but were not overly friendly with McCallum. Regardless, they decided to go back to his flat to watch some videos, and from the moment the boys walked in, they knew something wasn't right. Michael McCallum was a devil worshipper, and his bedroom was a shrine to Satan.
Right then, I would have walked out.
On the walls were posters of torture and human sacrifice, and the words Devilman Killer 666 was etched onto his TV screen. Lying amongst books on demonic topics was a makeshift altar and an Ouija board. All 4 of them decided to sit around and play. McCallum started the game by asking, "If you are Satan, what is it you want me to do?" Before it could answer, things took a dark turn when McCallum's older friend put Eridge's hand on the glass and told him he would chop off his fingers if he didn't do as he was told. The 2 boys panicked and tried to escape, but Eridge was hit on the head by McCallum and then violently stabbed by him 11 times. His body was then wrapped in bedding and dumped between the 7th and 8th floors of the flat. Eridge's friend was allowed to go home, as long as he promised not to tell anybody about what had happened. After leaving the flat with his life, he of course reported what had happened and McCallum was arrested that night. At the time of his arrest and during every court appearance, Michael smiled and claimed he was buzzing from the killing, telling police that all of a sudden I started attacking him and a voice in my head said kill him. The Ouija board told me to buy the knife and the demon madness told me to kill him. The glass also spelt out the words kill. At his trial, McCallum was assessed and sent to Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital for an indefinite period, with the judge saying there was a major risk he would offend again. This man was pure evil, and psychologists are divided on whether his satanic worship and extensive Ouija board use was a tipping point for his schizophrenia, which caused him to kill young Eridge.
No, it was.
And subsequently spent the rest of his life in care. The possession of Lucia Jimenez. In July 2016, some very unsettling footage was released that was taken in Nicaragua that appears to show a young girl possessed by a demonic spirit after playing an Ouija board. Now, before I play the footage, I will tell you the story that the local news station reported. They said that 5 people, including 13-year-old Lucia, were taking part in an Ouija board session when Lucia began acting very strange. A priest was quickly called as those around her believed she was being affected by the board and was becoming possessed. When the priest arrived, he acted immediately and began performing an exorcism to rid her of this believed evil spirit. The girl recited back what the priest was saying before throwing up, which is said to be a common practice during an exorcism to suggest the devil has been banished. All of this was caught on camera, so take a look and see what you think. After the exorcism, the priest told reporters that the demon had been cast out of the girl, and that the 5 people deeply regret using an Ouija board in the first place, which caused them to see the world that separates us humans with the spirit realm. The footage and story sure is intense, but since there is a lack of information, it's open to debate on whether you believe this girl really was possessed by the devil by taking part in the Ouija board session. Annabelle's Ouija board encounter. Now this is a unique one, unique in the fact that it was personally sent to me by a lady who has never shared her Ouija board story before. I will call her Annabelle, although that is not her real name. It all began when 14-year-old Annabelle and her best friend, like many curious youngsters, decided to play an Ouija board. Almost immediately they made contact with a spirit who gave them his name as the Jester. It seems that the Jester preferred to speak to Annabelle rather than her friend, which was flattering at first, but became troublesome when he told her he was in love with her, and that they were meant to be together. As time went on, and many more Ouija board sessions took place, the Jester was becoming more possessive and violent towards Annabelle. It was around this time that she also started experiencing paranormal activities at her home, that had never happened previous to her Ouija board use. Objects were being moved around, mainly in her bedroom, and strange noises could be heard around the house. Annabelle's friend also started experiencing strange things, and both girls were worried about what they had got themselves into. They knew they had to stop using the Ouija board, but first had to confront head-on what they had released. They decided to use the board one more time to demand the Jester to leave. They invoked the name of Jesus, and the spirit became angry, apparently shaking the board so furiously that the girls could barely keep their hands on it. After a few moments, it seemed the Jester had gone, and the girls vowed never to touch an Ouija board. A few years passed, and no more paranormal activity relating to the board took place. However, at the age of 22, Annabelle became curious as to what really happened all those years ago, and decided to see if she could get in touch with the spirit once again. Not through the board, which she refused to touch, but through meditation and calling. Almost
You're an idiot. You are a fucking idiot, Isabel.
Immediately after she started visualizing the Jester and her experience whilst lying in bed one evening, a black figure appeared at the bottom of her bed and rose up, stretching its arms over her and her boyfriend. Her cat that was in the room hissed and ran away, and Annabelle's boyfriend started whispering, "Go away." Annabelle then began to pray, and the figure moved to the corner of the room and disappeared. Since then, nothing more relating to the board or the Jester has taken place, and Annabelle has not touched an Ouija board or tried to contact him since. Since then, nothing more relating to the Jester has taken place, and Annabelle has not touched an Ouija board or tried contacting him since. The lady who contacted me has no reason to lie about her experience. She doesn't even wish to be named, and has nothing to gain from telling me this. This does not mean her story is true, but it's very compelling and certainly very creepy. What's your thoughts on it? A Ouija board madness. Messing around with the spirit world can be bad, especially when the messages received from an Ouija board are taken seriously enough that they cause the person receiving them to act irrationally. Well, this is exactly what happens to this next family. On Christmas Eve 2014, Paul Carroll drowned and dismembered his family dog. In court, Paul pleaded guilty to the offence, but claimed supernatural spirits that he had awakened by an Ouija board session were responsible for the dog's horrific death, claiming she was possessed by an evil spirit. However, despite the horrific incident that led to courts ordering their other 3 dogs and a snake to be removed from the family, they still continue to try and communicate with the spirit world through an Ouija board. Then, in February 2015, Corral's wife Margaret and her daughter Katrina sat around the board once again at their home in an attempt to contact their dead dog. The next day, Katrina told a neighbour that the session had predicted herself and her mother's death. That evening, a devastating fire ripped through their home in England. Both women escaped the blaze and were hospitalised with critical injuries. At first, many were linking it to the paranormal. However, it later transpired that the pair had deliberately set fire to the house in an attempted suicide and had taken pills after their session, as they were so terrified by the death threat from the Ouija board. But as the fire consumed them, they changed their minds and were lucky enough to have made it out alive. The pair were arrested and jailed for arson, and blamed the Ouija board for their crazed and erratic behaviour. Meadowbird. Those...
And that's why you got much less and Ouija board. What is that?
Most of you have been fans of paranormal videos on YouTube for a while have probably heard of Meadowbird. He used to upload loads of poltergeist caught-on-camera videos, and they have been used by many people in the past. But one of his most interesting pieces is that of an Ouija board session he conducted on Halloween night in his...
I've heard of him, but I've never seen his channel.
Believed haunted home. The glass he is using for the session smashes before he even gets a chance to start, and at the same time the EMF detector, which is believed to detect when a ghost is near, also spikes and a drawer opens at the same time, followed by a variety of objects being thrown at him, which happens in a lot of his videos. The footage really speaks for itself, so take a look.
Hi guys, happy Halloween.
I have a feeling it's going to be a loud shadow.
Yeah, try this again. Didn't work out too well last time. What did I just If you didn't see what happened last time, I'm gonna take the fire. Up there somewhere. I didn't spray. Alright, the power of Christ technology. That's terrible. God, I'm tired.
He said that many have suggested this is more than just the regular poltergeist that seems to haunt his home, but is an Ouija board demon called Zozo that can be incredibly violent and is known to...
Okay, you saw the EMF detector go to a 6.2 when that glass broke. Yeah, you can't fake that at all.
have been present in Roland Doe's house, the boy whose demonic possession inspired the Exorcist movie. Now, I will admit that Mellowbird's footage seems too good to be true, and so does his other content, but he has done videos debunking people's beliefs that he fakes his footage, doesn't include creepy background music to enhance the scare factor, and also seems to be pretty defensive when it comes to people claiming they are fake. Now, that's not to say they are real, they are definitely worth a look if you haven't already seen them, and are pretty damn creepy. So do you think he summoned something evil whilst conducting the Ouija board session that Halloween night? Or is it all a hoax? So there's 5 creepy Ouija board stories, crimes and experiences. I hope you enjoyed, and if you had any encounters whilst playing a Ouija board, then leave a comment. Even ask around your friends and family, because you may be surprised who has played with
Okay, going to be it for tonight. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. I'm your boy, Hologram Nigga, out.